call Honourable Alfred Ngaro.
Speaker, I rise and take a call on this third reading for the Charities Amendment Bill. I want to acknowledge and thank the member for her comments, and do appreciate the support, I think, for both of us being Cook Islanders that are here in this Parliament, where we didn't have many representing our communities, is both a proud moment for us to be able to do that too as well. Mr Speaker, I want to acknowledge the previous Minister, the Honourable Joe Goodhue, who was the Minister in which this portfolio and the work that she has done, and also to the Government Administration Select Committee, the Honourable Ruth Dyson as well, and the work that they have done. I know that this has been important, and we know that the importance of that to a lot of our charitable organisations in our communities. 27,879 are registered charities, but we know there are a whole lot more too that are looking to seek registration, and there's about 114,110 not-for-profit institutions. And as the previous member has spoken, Puto Williams, in regards to the role that they play and the importance that they have in civil society up and down our country, they make up almost 70% of our voluntary fire brigade. They are part of our surf life saving clubs. They are part of the Rotaries and Lions. They play such a significant role that really they are the bedrock of our civil society, and we don't often use that language, but they make a huge contribution as well. We also know that under the not-for-profit institutions, their contribution is equivalent to $6 billion, which is about 2.7 of the total of our GDP. So they make not only a physical contribution in the time that they give, but also in kind. The contribution that they make to the GDP is quite critically important as well. What is also important, Mr Speaker, I suppose, is the public trust and confidence in these charities. Our priority is to increase public trust and confidence so that New Zealanders who are generous by nature know that this resource and this resource is being used in a way that does make a difference to our communities. And so this pathway to higher trust and confidence in the sector is an important part of the work that is being undertaken as well. So a key to maintain that trust and confidence is to have a good regulation surrounding the registration of charities, which is a key part of this bill, even though this bill has three small components, technical, but they are important as well. And if I can just make mention of them, Mr Speaker, briefly the introduction of the 20 working day timeframe to respond to a notice to provide further information as part of the registration. That becomes important because it means that in that iterative process, it'll provide greater certainty for all concerned as well. It'll reduce the time and cost for registration and applications, and will remove the reputational risk that could arise if its application is formally declined. This bill provides for the application to be deemed withdrawn if the entity does not respond to requests for further information as well. Likewise, it also makes sense to include the tax evasion and similar offences under Section 143B of the Tax Administration Act of 1994 to the list of offences that disqualify someone from being an officer of a registered charity. And I'm sure that most people, all people, would agree that it's important to have the credibility and integrity of our charitable organisations as well. Mr Speaker, I just wanted to make these brief remarks. I want to acknowledge the role up and down our communities throughout New Zealand that charities and not-for-profit organisations play. And again, just want to acknowledge that this is a part, one part which I think is important in providing support for our charities into our communities as well. So with that, Mr Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.